Oh yes, here it is, sports stuff. Did I do it right? Hello everyone, anyone want a quick game of sports ball? No! That's alright, neither do I. After all, to play sports, you need to go outside, understand the rules, have a court, have a ball, and have friends. Given that sports have been part of the video game medium from the very beginning, it isn't too much of a surprise that they continue to be a very successful staple. The conventions are already established and there's no need for an overly complex plot or storyline to keep the player invested. Also, there's an existing devoted fanbase who are all too happy to fork out over £50 a year to play as their favourite basket, foot, base, tennis, golf catchball team. But you aren't here to find out about the latest repackaging of WWE or FIFA. No, you're here to learn about the weirdest sports content that the video game world has to offer. And how do I know that? Well, because it's the title of the video and you clicked on it, so I'm guessing that's what you're expecting here. Without further ado then, I'm Peter from TripleJump, and here are the 10 weirdest sports video games. Number 10. Pirates vs Ninjas Dodgeball. It's always a good sign when a game summary begins based on the popular internet meme. While I wouldn't necessarily call Pirates vs Ninjas a meme, it's more of a thought exercise than anything else, it does have its own Wikipedia page, so I guess I'm wrong. Released on Wii and Xbox 360 in 2008, Pirates vs Ninjas Dodgeball was developed by Blazing Lizard and published by the short-lived Gamecock Media Group, who are probably most famous for crashing Ken Levine's acceptance speech for Game of the Year at the Spike Video Game Awards. They went bust a year later. Pitting various groups of character types against one another is hardly new. It's the cause of 89% of playground fights, according to these statistics I just made up. But rather than having the groups of ninjas, pirates, zombies, and robots fighting each other, Blazing Lizard opted for the game you'd normally play when it's raining during a PE lesson. The rules are, well, it's dodgeball, you probably know what the rules of dodgeball are. However, Pirates vs Ninjas Dodgeball gives each team a special skill. Ninjas are stealthy, robots stun players with their headlights, zombies burrow underground, like zombies do, and pirates get their parrots to grab the ball from other players. They call them special skills, I call it cheating, and I'm beginning to think that pirates might not be entirely trustworthy. Number 9. Mega Man Soccer. Having watched Space Jam after drinking way too much coffee, Dr. Wily decides one day to send his army of evil robots to invade a football match.
Bit weird, I don't think that's right.
Dr. Light apparently had his own late-night Looney Tunes and caffeine binge, as he immediately sends Mega Man and his robot friends onto the pitch to defeat them. I don't know, sometimes you're just bored and Jackbox doesn't cut it. Though Mega Man X was released for the SNES 1 year earlier, Mega Man Soccer in 1994 was the first game for the system in what is known as the classic Mega Man series. Don't worry, the baffled fans got to play Mega Man 7 a year later. So is Mega Man X not the 10th one? Why has 7 come after X? Mega Man Soccer lives up to its title, initially giving you a team made entirely of Mega Mans. Mega Men. Different types of robots join your roster as you defeat them team by team. The robots have their own specific defense, kicking, and fielding stats that dictate where you can place them on the field. They also each have special moves, such as electrifying the ball, turning it into scissors, blasting it across the field, or setting it on fire, which I would say is against the rules, but I've never actually asked a referee if it's okay to turn the ball into a pair of scissors, so what do I know? Play on. Number 8. Caveman Olympics. God. The Stone Age lasted for about 3 million years. That's a terrifying thing to comprehend, especially considering that even 2019 at this point feels like it took place at some point in the last millennium. Because of this, I wouldn't blame cavemen for getting a bit bored while waiting for anything to start existing. Caveman Olympics then was released by Dynamix in 1988 for the Commodore 64 and MS-DOS to give the troglodytes something, anything to do. It was also released on the NES under the less creative title of Caveman Games. It hypothesizes what cavemen might have done for sport outside of hitting one another with clubs, although to be fair, the game still contains a lot of hitting one another with clubs. The Olympics have 6 events in total: the saber race, mate toss, fire making, clubbing, the dino race, and the dino vault. Never say that cavemen did anything by halves. The majority of the game's quote-unquote humour comes from text-based gags, although given that it's set in a time before language was actually invented, we can probably forgive them for the lack of quality. The 6 competitors, Glunk, Crudler, Thag, Ugger, Gronk, and Vincent, have their own backstories, strengths, and hobbies. For instance, Glunk is a master of Club Foo, and Thag is also known as Mr. Charisma. Take that, Dwayne. The game's manual is also written in universe, with the various competitors giving you tips on how to win each event. There are even in-game questions to encourage you to give the scary piece of paper a flick through. Gronk says literacy is important. Well, he would if he could talk. Number 7. Super Baseball 2020. Choosing to set your futuristic fiction within the next few decades is always a risk. Back to the Future chose 2015, and Super Baseball 2020 chose, well, 2020. This game was originally a 1991 Japanese arcade game before being ported to the SNES and Sega Mega Drive in 1993. Set in what was then the far-flung future, most of the baseball players have been upgraded with cybernetic enhancements or have been outright replaced by robots. While Super Baseball 2020 is surprisingly heavy on the lore, including a historic cheating scandal, the layout of CyberX Stadium, and extensive team profiles, the game is best summarized as baseball, but with robots. These cyborg and robot players can be upgraded to stop them breaking, wearing out, or downright falling to bits throughout the game, with money earned through strikes, home runs, or successful catches. If that's not already too much information though, don't worry. The Wikipedia page has you covered with a headache-inducing list of rule changes that would take way more than 200 words to summarize. Honestly, robot tennis would be so much less complicated. Number 6. Diabolical Pitch. This is the first game on this list that hasn't involved some degree of time travel. That doesn't mean it's any less bizarre though. Released for the Kinect in 2012, oh boy, that's a good start.
I'm here! I know how it feels.
The plot is both high concept and thin on the ground. After being forced into early retirement due to an unspecified injury to his pitching arm, disenfranchised baseball pitcher Nigel McAllister finds himself in a psychedelic carnival full of demonic rabbits and tigers and cows. Oh my! He is given a seemingly magical prosthetic and tasked with making his way through the carnival to the castle where Queen Christine will fix his arm. Is he dreaming? Is he dead? I don't know, and I don't think the game knows either. Fortunately though, the developers at Grasshopper Manufacture appear to have heard my prayers to not have to read any more rules of the sport. The game itself simply involves hurling skull-breaking baseballs at people in mascot costumes, which I can assure you is a lot of fun, even if it did get me banned from Pontins. Oh, and yeah, it's fun to do it in the game as well. Number 5. Ribbit King. Huh, well, looks like my uncle was right. Sports really are the most important thing on the planet. Who'd have thunk it? Well, a 2003 GameCube and PS2 game by Infinity Jams works, that's who. Ribbit King decides to do away with conventional sport and instead invents a new game. Sort of. The home planet of plucky young upstart Scooter is in danger of crashing into a new dark age after having burned through its entire supply of super ribbonite. In order to save his world, Scooter must travel into space and compete in an interplanetary competition of Frolf. That's frog golf. Wow. Followed by his best friend, Pickwick the Picnic Basket, this little rabbit man boy thing must compete against pandas, penguins, aliens, and gumball machines overseen by a constantly staring nightmare. God, wouldn't it be nice if global warming were this easy to fix? For what is essentially thwacking frogs with a mallet, Frolf actually involves much more forward planning than golf does. The frogs have a mind of their own and will move after they land, swimming through water, jumping off spider webs and lily pads, eating nearby flies, and being eaten by monsters. And actually, I think real golf has got something to learn here. It would be far more exciting to watch if there was a risk the competitors could get gobbled up if they spend too long in the sand pit. Is that the actual golf term, the sand pit? It's a sand pit, right? Number 4. Deathrow. Originally designed as an online PC game in 1999, Deathrow was released as an Xbox exclusive by Ubisoft after Swedish developers Southend Interactive switched focus to consoles in 2001. Of course, the first question on everyone's lips is, why is this sports game called Deathrow? Is that Dutch for the throw or something? I don't know. Well, it says here that the game is set in 2219 when Blitz has overtaken every other sport on the planet to become the most popular game ever, although I'm sure there's still some pretty hardcore caber tossers somewhere out there. Teams of 4 players compete in 4 rounds to get as many goals as possible, which you may have noticed is the description of most sports. In Blitz, however, fighting is both endorsed and encouraged, with players having individual health meters and getting KO'd if they're bludgeoned too many times. While it's described as a combination of rugby, hockey, basketball, and football, at face value, Blitz seems to just be a version of Frisbee in which you're allowed to kick other players in the face. As you play through the campaign to win the World Championship, you face 13 different teams, each with its own specific niche. Convicts, policemen, marines, demons spawn, cultists, robots, ninjas. Hang on. This is just ninjas versus pirates again, isn't it? Oh, I knew those pirates weren't to be trusted. Number 3. Blood Bowl. In an apparent attempt to prove that Warhammer has infected every facet of our society, Blood Bowl is a video game series based on a board game series based on one of the many versions of the popular tabletop game Warhammer. Blood Bowl is set in an alternate Warhammer universe in which all the fantasy races of humans, goblins, orcs, elves, and trolls decide to put their differences aside and play American football, or as we like to call it, rugby. Cue angry comments. With initial plans for a Blood Bowl video game adaptation falling apart when UK developers Tynesoft went under in 1990, and a basic MS-DOS version tiding people over in 1995, French developers Cyanide Studios decided to take matters into their own hands, making their own game about fantasy races competing in American football that definitely wasn't Blood Bowl, Chaos League. They were promptly sued by Games Workshop, who then hired them to make an official version of the game. Bold move. Blood Bowls 1 and 2, released for PC and consoles in 2009 and 2015 respectively, provided you with the same elements as the tabletop game and a degree of carnage that figurines can't really achieve without scratching the paint. That's totally barbaric! That's wizard's chess! Players take it in turns to move their team around the field, with dice rolls dictating the outcome of each move. That might sound like one of the dullest sports video games you've ever played, but then not many of them let you watch an orc bash an elf's head in. Oh, classic. Number 2. Cyber Stadium Series, Base Wars. A 1991 Konami title for NES, Base Wars flings us once again into the far future, this time landing us squarely in the 24th century. While it is called Cyber Stadium Series Base Wars, the game defies its full title by not actually being part of a series. This entirely standalone game takes an idea similar to Super Baseball 2020, but entirely does away with any human players. It's presumably set after Judgment Day. In what is probably a very unsurprising move considering the trajectory of our society, baseball teams got sick of paying their star players millions of dollars per year when they could just get robots to do the same thing for free. The game features 4 different models of robot, each suited to pitching, catching, or fielding. However, instead of implementing a series of head-spinning rules like Super Baseball 2020, Base Wars thankfully decides to simplify the original rules of baseball by just equipping the robots with guns. Now, whenever the player wants to take possession of one of the bases, they have to beat the crap out of their opponent for it. It's just like ice hockey, but without the ice. Or hockey, and there's robots in it.
Whoa!
And number 1, Pigskin 621 AD. Centuries before British and American football were invented, Mongol and Viking leaders Attila de Soil and Thor Akenbach finally found the ultimate excuse to beat the living hell out of each other without prior cause. That's according to the self-admitted, grossly historically inaccurate player handbook anyway, which I personally trust more than any academic text. Originally a 1990 arcade game, Pigskin 621 AD was created by Rampage developers Bally MIDWAY before being ported to Sega Mega Drive in 1992. The rules of Pigskin are incredibly simple. Reach the other side of the field while holding onto the ball. With the pitch littered with mud, piles of bones, and weapons that you can use to stab or club your opponents, all other rules are practically null and void. So it's pretty much a game of British Bulldog then, and so I'm assuming that Pigskin would have been banned at my primary school. There are only 3 buttons: red to change the team strategy, white to pass the ball, and yellow to punch someone in the face. A button that all other sports games are sorely lacking, in my opinion. And that's our list, but what did we miss out? Which ones would you like to have played at your school sports day? Which do you think would be most effective at thinning the world's population? And not that I'm suggesting anything, let us know in the comment section below. You can follow myself and TripleJump on Twitter here, and if you want to support the things you enjoy, then check out the rewards on our Patreon. Finally, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I've been Peter from TripleJump, and thanks for watching.